It's Oosthuis.
You would think I would have gotten it. Yeah.
No, most Americans struggle. So in English it means East House. It's a Dutch derivative.
Okay. So James and Marlies are from George, South Africa. And I asked them to come and to open us in prayer this evening because we've been discussing the sister city relationship with George, South Africa, and an exchange of commerce. And we look forward to having those discussions and seeing where that goes. But I asked James and his wife Marlies, they're precious people, to introduce themselves and open us in prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Kling. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Dan. We're grateful for this opportunity. Nampa's become our home while we're stuck in America because we can't really return home at the moment with all this COVID thing. So it's really become a special place to us. And we found the people here so wonderful. And so thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to you all for that opportunity. Let's pray. Yeah. Father, I thank you for this town. I thank you for this city with the town's heart. I thank you for the people. From the lowest, Lord, right up to those that lead. I thank you, Lord, for the blessing that it is. And Father, I thank you that everybody here will also understand that it is such a special place compared to so many places that we have been. Lord, the blessing that there is here. Lord, if I compare it even to home, where there's so much unemployment and so much struggles, Father, and here there's opportunity and blessing. And Father, I thank you that even as this council meets today, that there will be a unity, Father God, even in discussing difficult things. Lord, that there would be a unity and a desire to work together to sort things out. And so we just pray for great wisdom. We pray for great understanding, Lord, for one another and for things that need to be done in this meeting today. And we bless everybody here today, Father. We bless the city. We thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And then we're going to do the pledge, so you can stand here as we do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we just hear her accent for just 30 seconds?
Hello, everybody. Is it good enough?
I know, we have the accent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
James and Marlies, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for praying. They have been living here for some time with Pastor Dan Manchuk with Good News Church, and they could choose to live anywhere in the United States as they travel everywhere, and they've chosen Nampa as their home, and have been here considerably longer than they had intended, correct? Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
We're excited for the sister city relationship. How we can work together to COVID, obviously, a lot of
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Okay, let's begin with roll call. Rodriguez?
Here.
Banner?
Here.
Mucci? Here. Levi? Present. Haverfield?
Here.
Bauer?
Here.
So we do have a proposed amendment to the agenda, and I would ask for a motion. As we follow up with a motion to approve the consent agenda, we will need to approve the amendment to the agenda, which is to add a new alcohol license for Paddles Up Coke to the consent agenda. It was omitted just due to a clerical error.
Mayor, just clarification. I thought I read beer and wine. Is it alcohol or just beer and wine?
Just beer and wine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
thank you.
As amended, I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to amend the consent agenda and to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion?
Seeing none, roll call.
Brenner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
So we have one proclamation, and this is a really exciting proclamation. They all are, but this one's special. And Jean, as I read the proclamation, are you going to stay right here and I'll hand it to you, or do you want to go down front, or what do you want to do?
Well, we were supposed to have some friends join us, but they're running a little late. So I'll go down and then have Amy join me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, 2C, well, I'm going to let Jean share about 2C Kids Succeed. Oh, that's wonderful. So I will read the proclamation, and then at the conclusion of the proclamation, I would like for Jean, for you guys to share about 2C Kids Succeed a little bit, and then about where we're going this week. So, whereas adverse childhood experiences, which we call ACEs, such as abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, or other events that cause trauma in children, can have lifelong impacts on individuals and communities. And whereas they are more common in Idaho than most of the broader United States. Whereas a safe, stable, and nurturing environment and a connection to a consistent and trusted adult are critical protective factors. And whereas our community has shared value for the well-being and support of our children. And whereas community members and local partners are working together to build healthy and resilient communities where kids and families thrive. Now, therefore, I'm, if I can say who I am, Mayor Debbie Kling, hereby proclaim September 26th through October 3rd to be 2C Kids Week in Nampa, Idaho, where we will demonstrate and celebrate hope and resilience.
Mayor and Council, thank you. Saturday is going to kick off a really exciting opportunity across Canyon County. When COVID, well, pre-COVID, the end of last November, some of you attended a kickoff for 2C Kids just next door. We've come a long way in less than a year, even with COVID. So we'd had these grand plans to have like community date night. Parents could go down to the plaza downtown, have all these fun opportunities. We'd have the rec center and the YMCA take care of kids. Well, COVID kind of derailed all that, but we didn't give up. So I think all of us could use a little bit of hope and inspiration right now. And so we are forging ahead with Hope Week. So what you're seeing up here, the Hope Notes, the two on the kind of layered, will be hard copies, and people can get those. We have 4,000 being printed. People can get copies of those and then just go out and spread hope. Write a little message, little hope note, put it on people's cars, hand it off to people. Just remind them that it matters, that they're here. We love people. Our community stands together. By the way, Mayor Nancolis is doing the same proclamation tonight in Caldwell, so I think that's really exciting. The yellow one is actually on our website, 2ckidsucceed.org. People can go in real time and write a message of hope, refresh, and it will be there. So you can write that to a child or an adult. On the right, those are murals. We're going to have a mural go up at the Rolling H building in downtown Nampa, and then also one on the Idaho Youth Ranch in Caldwell. And so we have Chris Fonseca is going to paint in Nampa, and Bobby Gaitan in Caldwell. So our two very best mural artists. It will begin Saturday, and the only request they had was that they got to teach kids their craft. They want to inspire kids, and so we'll have kids working with them throughout the week. And then next Saturday, so we're kind of going a long week, Saturday to Saturday, October 3rd, it'll be Selfie Saturday. And so then people are going to be encouraged to go down to each of the murals, take their picture, and really it's symbolic with the heart in the hands holding our kids, that we love our kids, we're unified in shared value for our kids. And we have incredible partners, all the health systems, St. Al's, St. Luke's, and West Valley are partners, Northwest Nazarene, CWI, C of I, Nampa Chamber, the City of Nampa, City of Caldwell, lots of school districts. So this has been a really incredible effort, I think, amidst COVID. And so again, we are going to spread hope and resilience and let our kids know as they're going back into classes that we've got their back. And then my friend from the Boys and Girls Club. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Riley Brown. I'm the program director at the Boys and Girls Club.
You inspire kids all day.
Yep, that's
Yes.
what we're playing.
So some of the kids wrote each of you your first hope notes. You get the first one
Oh.
out of anybody. Do you want to go ahead?
Okay.
So, to sound cliche, we hope you use your leadership to really promote hope and resilience across our community for the next week. Use social for good, and we are going to stand convicted that we are a healthy, resilient community where even kids who face hard things, where they start doesn't predict where they end. So thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Jean, thank you. I tell you what is happening through 2C Kids Succeed is amazing, and this is just a beginning. It is awesome. Okay, so council members, let's read our notes. Jacob Bauer, we'll go with you first.
You got this. Did I say the name?
Uh-huh.
Jordan.
Jordan, there you go.
Keep trying, from Sam. Keep trying.
You are awesome, Colton.
Oh,
You are loved. I'm not sure.
Killian, maybe? Kelani?
Kaylani?
Kelani,
You get my Kaylani.
thank you. Mine says, keep trying, don't give up. Preston H12, I love that. That was perfect.
I didn't get one, but
Oh.
I'll just be inspired by all of you.
This is more for you than me. I know this is not my wife. You are perfect. It's actually Kayla.
And mine says, he must have known I'm only 5'7", because it says, always look up. Dude, I do. And that's from Joseph II. Isn't this cool? This
It is
so good. Thank you,
wonderful.
Gene.
And so you know what we're also going to do? So the Storybook Trail, the stations that we put out at Lakeview Park, told Jean today, it's just an idea that came forward today. Typically, we put a book in there and we do it in English and Spanish. Instead, we're going to choose some of the hope notes and we're going to have them written and displayed on all, the Storybook Trail with messages of hope. And so they'll last for the next 2 months.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I am excited. This is just awesome. So thank you for what you're beginning.
Thank you, and I can't wait to have a PSA, hint, hint, Amy, with the mayor passing one off to Mayor Nancolis, the two chiefs passing one off, and we'll just start a hope trail. So, thank
And,
you.
Aha,
Mary
let's do
Clinton?
it. Yes.
And also, Gene, next year, I want you to think about putting these and this message on the golf courses and the holes.
Good
I
idea.
think that'd be a perfect, don't you think, Darren?
Darren, we can make it happen this year if you're
Yeah.
willing.
Are you going to cover
Let's
up
roll.
Oh, yeah, no, but,
You're gonna hit.
well, trying.
Keep trying, yeah,
I
keep
think that'd
trying.
be, I think that would be beautiful for us to do that with the golfers.
It's gonna be fun. Thank you.
That is awesome.
Good idea.
And
Thank you,
here's your
Jean.
proclamation.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is Nampa residents wishing to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, and we have two people signed up, and I think let's start with Curtis Homer. Curtis, it's so great to see you. Thank you for coming. So for those of you that don't know, Curtis Homer is our former police chief and also a former city council member and the director of the Snake River Stampede Rodeo that he just retired from and still on the board. Just a couple things,
I has been this and I has
Yeah.
been that, so
and you're
Well-
still volunteering a lot.
that's what
Yes.
keeps us going.
Uh-huh.
And tonight I'm here with the Ford Idaho Horse Park Foundation, and I can't say no to a lot of stuff. So I think it's a great organization, and what we wanted to do, I think you got an invitation in your packets. If you didn't, we can certainly get one, but I'll just go over a couple of things. 2020 has been a challenging year for everyone, but in the midst of the challenges, the Fort Idaho Center Horse Park has continued to safely and successfully produce events that have grown leaps and bounds over previous years. So far this year, they've had, I believe, 11 events. Normal year, which I don't know if you can remember normal or not, but normal years, there's about 26 or 27. And just the impact of that in this community is in the millions of dollars. So we have 2 more events coming. There's 2 in October. And so this invitation for you for the council and the mayor and Rick, that you're invited to join the Horse Park Foundation in conjunction with Idaho Center and the Low Roller Reining Classic, and that's put on by George from Twin Falls, and he's been doing that for 20 years, I think. And so we wanted to invite you out on October the 9th, which is a Friday evening at 5 p.m. We'll be having tours for you to just see what's going on out there, see where the money goes and how how it's being handled. And Andrew Nim and the staff there does a great job. We will have it to where you'll be individually in golf carts, so you don't have to, we thought about the trolley, but that would get you too close. So we want to, and the seating will be in the balcony area where we can separate you out. It's a large area there in the horse park, and we'll have different tables for you. And we just need to know, and we'll have hors d'oeuvres and some wine there if you prefer to have that. And so we'll be holding the tours starting at 5 p.m. on that Friday evening, October the 9th. So we'd love to have you come out there. And that derby, I'm going to ask Sherry Boardman, she's here, and she's the vice president of the foundation. What night does it start? It starts the 3rd? So it's an 8-day event. And so it's bringing a lot of money. What we've got there is on the, we have 44 RV spots out there. So far we have 100 and something people with RVs that are coming. This show is one of the larger shows we'll have this year. And we have 702 stalls available. Every stall has been rented. So, and the Snake River Stampede, we bought 30 new this year that we put up, and they've had to rent some more to justify that. So, as you know, the foundation and the Stampede both are working with Andrew in the Idaho Center in order trying to make some RV spots for the future. This year, the overflow would be handled like what they've called a trailer town. They're going to be parked out there with their own generators and their campers and everything. But they come from all over the country. And this is one of the most desired spots in the Northwest for horse shows. So we would like to invite you out there. And it's good to see not everybody is staying home. I actually got to go watch my granddaughter. She's a kicker for the Ridgeview High School. And so far she's made all of her field goals this year. And so it's good. And I know you have kids that are fishing and hunting and playing football. And I see most of you on Facebook, and it's good to see everybody. We can't wait to get back together. My wife works at South Middle School. Today was the first day they had kids back in school. And so she said they were so excited to be back around their friends and the teachers and stuff. The only problem is, like any of us, if you're a hugger, not a lot of hugging going on the last 6 months, but we're all still friends. And I appreciate a couple of things from you, and then I'll shut up. I know 3 minutes, not very long for Curtis to talk. But of supporting our police department. And I'm not saying that just because Joe or Chief Huff's sitting back here, but I appreciate it. And with the things that are going on in this country, I'm glad that our city is a city like it is, to support our community and our family and people of every race and every belief. We're there. And it's just a great place to live in this city right now. So don't change, please. So, any questions?
Mayor, just so 5 o'clock. Can you come at a later time, or are you
Yeah,
just?
it'll start. The tour is about 5, and then after we take tours for about an hour.
So 5 o'clock is when the tours start.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so then after
So
that.
if you come at 6, you're probably not going to get a tour, right?
Well, we can make a schedule. We can do it. We may have to walk.
Just don't let them drive.
Yeah, don't leave by
I've
your
seen
car.
her drive.
Mayor
But-
Kling.
Thanks, Chief.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Mountain West Conference is looking at possibly reinstituting football this fall for Boise State University. Is there any chance that you guys can look at getting that Stampede this fall? Or is it a
No.
done deal?
No, it's a done deal, just because what we had to make our mind up in May. And it was one of the hardest decisions this board's ever had to make. Because 103, 104 years, we've never had to cancel one. I think they canceled one during World War II. There was a year in there that they couldn't have it, and one during the Depression. But this year was really hard. We had to make our minds up in May, because you have to be at least 45 days out from when our start time was. And at that time, we had almost every major rodeo. Not only did we have to be under the city's, guidelines you guys had set up for us, and the state, of course, a PRCA. And so at that time, they said everyone there had to have a mask on. Well, and they couldn't have any, and so then they finally dropped that. And you'll see rodeos right now, like in South Dakota, but South Dakota never had a mask. They hadn't had the rules that we have. And so when you see Las Vegas, Nevada, $200 million is what they're losing because they had to move the NFR to Arlington, Texas. And still I saw one report that they said they would allow, that stadium holds 80,000 people, they will allow 20,000 in there. So all of those were weighed in, and it was one of the hardest things. And I was to retire as a general manager in August this year because I told them I'd do it for 2 years when I started. And because we didn't have a rodeo, I said, I'm taking July off. I haven't had July off for a long time. So it's a hard thing, but we're planning for next year, and we're going to try to keep this thing going. And every time, the longer this goes, the more we learn. What do we need to do? What do we not have to do? And it's really hurt a lot of things this year. So just to get to watch our kids play football, and like I say, my granddaughter, she's trying to let her in football, but she's a good kid. All right, any more questions?
Mayor Kling, if I could, Sherry, could you come up? In case you councilmen don't know Sherry Boardman, she is the fourth between the city of Nampa and Idaho Horse Park. And I'll tell you what, she does an amazing job, and she doesn't take no for an answer, do you?
She who must be obeyed.
Yo, if
She
you
told
just,
me to be there tonight, so that's why I'm here.
That's all right. Thank you. Thanks, Victor.
oh, you're welcome.
I would so
Thank you.
enjoy having you come. We do have you in a safe area, and the Open Derby, which is a very progressive part of the horse show, is the cream of the cream. The best part of the whole show is going to be there. It's the professionals showing that night. So I thought that would be something that you would enjoy, and we would love to have you.
And I went with you that one time when there was a horse show. She taught me so much about horses, I couldn't even believe it, didn't you? I mean, it was awesome. I wanted to get on with it. You said no.
Thank you for not letting him get on.
Well, I thought you might need him.
But thank you for all you do out there.
Thank you.
We're blessed to have you.
Thank you.
I think
Thanks so much.
Jean has a comment or question.
No, I was just say thank you. We'll be there. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And if you want to bring someone with
We
you,
can bring our spouse?
please,
Okay.
please do. And did you get your
You
invitation?
take mine?
I don't think we did, so we'll have to find them. I'm not sure where they are. Could you go we'll grab them and get them
Yeah,
distributed.
and
I'm sorry, I don't know
Nancy
how they
Seal
didn't
is
get here.
our contact person to RSVP, so we'll make sure we have everybody
Thank you.
ready to go.
Get it?
So.
Thank you so much.
We'll make sure you're safe and have social distancing.
So
protocols.
is it outside in the outdoor arena?
No, it's in the indoor, but. we're
Indoor
gonna
arena.
Set your seating up on the balcony on the east end of the arena, so
Okay.
you'll be
Over
shining lights looking down.
for the track meet,
Yeah.
Right.
indoor track meet is.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me have this 3 minutes.
He's always good.
You know it's hard for me to even say my name in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll look forward to seeing all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll get the invitations out here before you guys go home tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have another, is this Amy? Mm-hmm. Okay, hi, Amy. And then, Amy, do we have some other people outside? Okay, thank you.
That are here for the proclamation.
They were a little late, but
Oh.
their dad is he works for the Guard.
So we'll have them come
And
forward.
so
and
they
meet
just
them.
wanted to say hi.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll have
the
them come.
Halverson
So
family.
thank you, Mayor Council. I'm just here to talk about the special event we're having this Thursday. Be making history, first ever, I think, but somebody can correct me, event in all Spanish. And so just for a little bit of situational awareness, a few weeks ago, it's been a month and a half now, in starting to do a PSA in Spanish related to COVID. I do not speak Spanish. I needed help. And so started reaching out to friends, and it grew into a very large COVID-19 task force that involves Department of Health and Welfare, Southwest District Health, Community Council of Idaho. A lot of amazing partners have come together. And one of the things we're doing is we're having an event because what we learned is that where English citizens have been hearing this message of COVID for the last 6 months, many in the Hispanic community have not. And so we're having this event out of that task force. And so Councilman Rodriguez will be coming. It will be in all Spanish, so you could join me in not knowing what's being said. But it will be a very exciting time for our community. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
And this is a follow-up to the community conversation that we recently had, and I think Councilman Brunner, you were there, and Rodriguez, I don't know who else was there, but it was a community conversation where we talked about COVID from a healthcare perspective, but we also talked about it from a business perspective and economic recovery. The format is identical to the last community conversation, but this one is to reach out to the Hispanic, Latino, Spanish-speaking community with the same format. So Amy's done an amazing job working and spearheading an initiative, so we look forward to doing this. It will be live streamed also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. And then, Amy, do you want to send it?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Nope, this is good.
Mayor,
Yes.
thank you. May I suggest that we get our pictures taken with them holding our little hope notes, because that'd be perfect to put out on the city website, just a hint.
It's a really good idea.
Maybe, Mayor, you would help.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Shall we just come down? Well, we'll have to get our mask,
Hello.
the mask back on. Or can we do it like if they stand in front and we stand forward?
Some of us aren't going to wear masks.
Yeah,
I don't
so.
think it's a real big deal.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Thank you for coming.
Hi, guys. It's good to see you.
Riley already brought your notes, so the mayor read the proclamation. Do you want to tell us who you are?
I'm Jacob Halverson. I'm actually a volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club. My daughter's in the back, but 3 of them are my kids, and then my nephews. They asked me to bring them down here. They all attend the club here in Nampa. I've been a part of the Boys and Girls Club for about 3 years now.
And you're not just a volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club, clearly, by what you have on. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could we get a picture maybe rather than?
Why don't you go down?
Okay, well, I was going to say, we could all just gather, stand up and gather in a little bit, and we could all, and you guys come up here and face that way. And Jean, do you want to go down with the proclamation? Let's do that. You've got that, and let's all just sneak in here and come on up here and face that way. Come really close and. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
We have our note cards, we can show them. These are so cute.
Thank you for coming.
I love these.
What's your name?
You can come in if you want.
Cameron.
Let's get rid of that. Come on up. We'll squeeze.
No Sam down there?
Come on in. Come on in. You can come close. That's fine. Oh.
Amy can back photos.
Timing is everything.
You guys want to hold this? That's the proclamation. Okay.
Yeah.
Notes up. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Everybody's smiling. No second. Awesome. Okay.
How do you know if they're
Thank
smiling?
you guys for coming.
We'll see you guys next week to paint.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Debbie. Sandy, thank you for that suggestion.
You're welcome.
Great idea. Did we miss anyone else that was wanting to speak on the 3-minute time frame? Okay, so the next item on the agenda are mayor and council comments, and I actually don't have any comments this evening. I don't know if council has any comments this evening. I don't see any.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would just like to say one thing. I think schools went back in today, so let's be prayerful for health, safety, kids connecting with people who are important in their lives. So I'll be praying for them a lot. Thanks.
You know, and because I've done COVID updates every time I didn't do any, but thank you for sharing that, Jean, because it's so important that we all maintain our diligence right now, especially with all the kids back in school. And so let's all continue to do our part. So with that, The next item on the agenda are agency and commission reports, and we do not have any this evening. We do have several staff communications, and we'll start with Beth Heineck with Economic Development. Thank you, Beth, for giving us an update on economic activity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's been a long time since I've given you a general economic update. So I thought as I've been talking with a lot of our different businesses and hearing about all of the hiring going on, I thought it would be a great opportunity to help highlight some of them and give you guys the general update. So I put together some data that I'm going to share with you because I'm an economics major and I love charts, so bear with me. First off, this is not in your written staff report that I handed out in your council packets, but I wanted to just share some data that is from our building department. I've, over the last, probably 4 or 5 months, I've started connecting with them on a monthly basis and updating these charts and sharing with our Ready team just where we are in terms of our permits as kind of a leading indicator of what's happening out there. So on single family permits, you can see August was a banner month for new units coming in. This is on a unit basis. So the blue line is our 2020, 2019 is in the orange. You can see kind of that dip that happened in April, May, June, and July was lagging where we were in 2020. So I know that we had some builders kind of get nervous in March when we had our stay-at-home order and kind of pulled back a little bit, but we've really seen it kind of start to jump kick again here in August, and it seems like September will far outpace 2019 as well. On the next one, we have our multifamily and duplex units. This is always interesting because, right, they come in, multifamily will come in 50 units at a time, so it's a little bit lumpier in terms of how the chart looks. Again, we kind of saw that drop off. We didn't have the big summer permits being pulled that we've had in the past, but it does sound like we'll see a pretty good increase in September too. And then just looking at overall values on the next one, we have new construction permits. This is always kind of fascinating to look at. This is all commercial, residential combined. December and April were 2 big packages that came through for Amazon. So those kind of skew everything when you have those huge amounts coming in those 2 months. But we are kind of trending up. You can see we kind of held our own through that May and July. July was really down a lot compared to last year, but then August has come back pretty strong. So. And then on the next one, because I was told I had too many charts in my presentation, you get a little tiny bit of humor here, and that this chart is what you would see a mountain range through a tennis racket. On the next one, we'll dig into the employment numbers. On the employment side, we hear kind of about this V-shaped economy through COVID and the stay-at-home orders. And you can see that Nampa really has kind of had that V shape in terms of employment. So our unemployment in pure numbers peaked in April. We had just over 6,000 people collecting unemployment at that point. And I kind of have started to really shy away from looking at our unemployment in terms of our unemployment rate, the percentage, because our labor force is growing so much, it skews what's happening when you just look at it as a percentage. So on the next one, we can look at total number of employed in Nampa. So we are just about 450 jobs short of where we were pre-COVID. So March, the employment numbers for months are taken from the week with the 12th of the month in that week. So if you remember back, March 12th was the first date that COVID case was in Idaho reported. And so that week is the week that we have for our March unemployment rates and our employment. And so that March is truly kind of the pinpoint of just pre-COVID for where we were with employment. So we were about 43,500-ish total employed in the city of Nampa, and we are just over 43, I think it's 43,089 employed for the July numbers. The August numbers I think should be out any minute. They were supposed to be out at the end of last week, but I didn't see them. And so on the next one, when I talk about that labor force growth, this shows you how much, these are the total number of people who are either employed or looking for a job in our city. So this number has increased, it seems significant to me at least, from, just even that March to March year over year, we're up almost 1,500 people in the labor force. And so then in July, you can see we are peaking the number of people that we've ever had in our labor force. So as we look at the number of jobs we're creating and are available in the community, and that number of people in the labor force, that's why that unemployment rate is a little bit skewed. So kind of moving to the next one, I wanted to give you just a brief update on our small business CARES funding. We opened this on September 9th. And today we've had 22 applications submitted for just over the $251,000 being requested. There's a lot of back and forth that takes place in these applications because we're really conscious of what's eligible for funding and what's not. And so it's taking a little bit of time to work through them and work with those business owners. We've reviewed 7 to date and have kind of gotten the staff sense of approval and are being forwarded to the state for their approval. We do have 51 applications in progress, so we can't necessarily see, they haven't submitted fully, so we don't know exactly what their ask will be of those 51, but they're in the queue. So we are monitoring that and making sure kind of where we're falling. Just on our 2020 business growth, so since October 1st of last year, we had 2 local firms do major expansions. These were competitive projects. They're multinational companies who were looking at expansion opportunities in the U.S. And Matern Go-Go Squeeze chose their Nampa facility here over their Michigan facility for a new investment. It's new product line and packaging lines, so it's over $32 million and over 50 new employees. They currently have 24 of those as open positions and are trying to hire for those. And then Lactalis, this spring actually just approved an expansion of their facility here with almost $2 million of new equipment. And they have 75 new openings coming. I think at least 70 are currently open, a combination of this new line as well as just the expansion on the other lines. So we are actually partnering with them for a job hiring fair. It's not just a job fair because they actually want to hire people on the spot there at the Idaho Center on the 30th. So next Wednesday, they are hoping to get a good turnout to fill a lot of these open positions. And then just kind of other business growth that has been in the works is obviously Amazon. They have their temporary certificate of occupancy and are looking to get their full occupancy permit in October. And I think are starting to ramp up their hiring. And we anticipate that they will hire at minimum 1,000 people between now and the end of the year. Fleetwood Homes is a Nampa company. They're a national company, but they've had a Nampa presence for multiple decades. And I had a chance to tour their facility with our state workforce development group. And they are currently hiring. I think they have about 20 new positions open. They are trying to expand to meet demand. LB Foster is a CXT. They just opened in January. They've hired about 85 people and still have more positions open. And then Autoval just started their operations this summer. So it's a new 400,000 square foot facility just north of Lactalis. And they would love to hire 4 to 5 people a week for the next year. So they want to have 50 new people on board by the end of this year and another 100 people next year. So they are hiring for all positions from just walk in with a GED or a high school diploma and they'll put you to work and train you from there on to full journeyman electricians. So it's all ranges of skill sets that they are looking to hire. And then Heartland, one of the things you've probably seen in the news is the explosion of our recreation industry. And Heartland is certainly the beneficiary of that. They are looking to hire folks as well. They have just seen their demand go through the roof for RVs, and one of their challenges though was the supply chain. So trying to make sure that their suppliers can keep up with the work that they're doing. But all of these companies are hiring. We probably have a lot more jobs in the pipeline that we will see over the next few months. So we probably have more job openings today in the city of Nampa than we have people unemployed. So that's always, I think, a positive thing, and we'll hopefully start to see the commute patterns change a little bit. So on the next one here, this online job posting, we have over 2,000 jobs that are posted online. This does not account for a company who may be hiring 20 welders with one online ad. So this is certainly underreporting of the current, and that was for August. And then just kind of how COVID-19 is affecting the future and what we think about and look at. Here's just kind of a collection of some headlines that have caught my eye over the last couple of months. Zillow posted a report, I think it came out in August, based off of their July data from kind of February through July. And that chart there with the red line that goes off the chart is San Francisco, and that is their vacancy rates for apartments and housing in San Francisco, and that basically people are leaving. When you can't afford anything more than a studio apartment with 3 roommates and you are suddenly all working from home, it doesn't become very sustainable. And so we've certainly seen a lot of that migration movement. Idaho had the largest net gain at 194%, following by New Mexico. And that is for the net people of moving in and out of the state through COVID. And then one of the things I know we talked a little bit about through our CUP process with the former Karcher Mall site and their call center facility, and we talked a little bit about the changing office and people working from home. I think in my staff report shows you that my memory is older than my current knowledge. I think I said Quest, but it's obviously CenturyLink, is vacating their 100,000 square feet of office space in downtown Boise. They are transitioning them all to permanently remote workers. And so I think that's just kind of the first of headlines that we will see along those lines. And it'll be really interesting to kind of see what the long-term impacts of remote working are. I think it certainly creates an opportunity for us as we have more people moving in that are bringing their jobs with them, and how do we integrate them into our community and make sure that they are meaningfully contributing outside of just being in their home, and how do we get them engaged in the city life as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds, and then just certainly kind of some from the bigger city side on the emptiness of Manhattan office buildings. And where will all of these individuals choose to live now that they don't have to live within a commute distance of a daily commute to their office? So those are just kind of the things that I'm watching and kind of paying attention to, and we're starting to see kind of materialize into the work we're doing here locally. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So what's with all these job openings? Any idea? I know what Amazon's average hourly is. What type of with supply and demand? Wages have got to be going up.
Yes, and so the wage data that they get at the state and federal level lags significantly. So they haven't even released any 2020 wage data. But in my conversations with the Department of Labor, they're estimating that wages through COVID have increased 7.3%. Because you have essential workers that were given kind of bonuses for continuing to work through the stay-at-home orders and whatnot. Obviously, Amazon has a $15 an hour minimum wage, and we are seeing that become more common throughout all of these employers. All these employers that I've mentioned, I think, are within that range, if not even higher.
Okay. And Mayor, if I may, so our small businesses, and we don't have a lot of ma and pas, but we do have some. So what are there? I mean, there's got to be concerns on their part.
I think there's definitely
Their bottom line.
Right.
Yeah.
Concerns over, what they need to be able to pay to keep people and to attract new employees in, definitely.
So prices may be going up in some areas. That's just a reality. And I mean, I got to be a little facetious every time, Mayor. So can we vet, though, with all these folks coming in? I heard San Francisco and Northern. Can we vet a little bit before they get at the border of Nampa? Okay.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
This just reinforces what I heard today, too. Talking to a developer, and U-Haul, the #1 destination with U-Haul is Idaho. And that's a drastic difference from what it was in the 80s and 90s, where the brain drain out of Idaho to other states was happening. Now it's coming back. So it's an interesting time that we're living in here in Idaho. So, and the commercial market, he said, is as hot as he's ever seen it. And that's just on top of the residential growth that we're seeing. So there's a lot happening here, good and bad.
I think we're very fortunate to be where we are for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I'm thinking there is no reason for any unemployment.
No.
Because we've got lots of jobs, and jobs where they're willing to train. So our employment numbers should continue to drop. The question is, do they want to be employed? And so I think one of the things that we need to continue to look at as a community is getting those that are unemployed and figuring out why. Some will stay unemployed because it is what it is, but others that maybe want to work will have to work on getting them the skills.
And we have started just recently in our collaboration with the school district that really has taken place with the Nampa Ready group, started to share these leads directly with Mari from the school district so that she can make sure that it's in the community resource rooms within the schools so that as parents come in and are struggling to find employment, that we're able to help bridge those connections.
Thank
Well,
you.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
So I'm just thinking here, with all this employment opportunities coming up, I would think that we'd want to keep our employees and be comparative to those businesses that are paying and starting out. So we need to think about that. That's important to us, to keep our employees and not lose them. Yeah. Thank you.
You mean you go back to work?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't want to do that.
So the next item on the agenda is staff communications with Public Works. And Tom, I'll let you guide us through. I don't, if you want to go the order of the agenda, would that be correct? Jeff Barnes first, then Nate, and then Evan Jenkins.
Mayor and City Council. So I wanted to give you an update on the airport, and we have a master plan for the terminal expansion going on right now, and just give you a quick update. So there's been a lot of exciting things going on at the airport. We just finished an overall master plan, so we kind of know what it's going to look like 20 years from now. But one of the things that we didn't know was exactly how the layout of Municipal Way and the of Municipal Way, and it's kind of hard to see, and the parking lot, and then the terminal area. So if you take a look. Okay. I got my bar in the way. Sorry about that. So this is the location for the future terminal area, new terminal. We're talking about overnight storage for large planes that come in, larger planes that come in, and that could be business planes, which was a need. I've talked about more room for the Tower Grill, also the business administration building, and Monty and his crew moving over to there, and then being able to open up that east side of Municipal Way to larger commercial lots, consolidating parking for the events at the Warhawk and other events at the airport, and almost 150 added stalls, and moving some of the shade hangers from right here to provide an open tarmac area for future events and planes and things that are last year we had the B-25 come in and be able to set it out there and bring people in and take a look at it. So with that, I'd just like if you had any comments on that, this is in the middle of the process right now. We're going to have some facade designs for the new terminal building, and just wanted to let you know where we're at. So I appreciate any input you might have.
Mary Kling. Jeff, expansion of the Warhawk Museum, is that a part of this concept?
Yeah, part of the architect's project was to look and to work with what they're doing right now, and so we're continuing to kind of find out what they want to do in the future and then look at options moving forward. So it is part of this.
So would that include loss of some hangar facilities that are there?
We're still looking at that potential, and if that's the case, you'll know exactly what has to happen in order to make that happen. So
Okay, so the costs
restoration of-
associated with it, trade-offs, all that would be provided?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, extension of the runway is not a part of any
Is not a part of
near-term?
No.
Okay, so when you talk about the larger airplanes coming in, they're able to be accommodated on the current length?
Absolutely. Councilman, larger in terms of some 12-seat jets that can come in and have overnight storage there.
And not freighter-type deliveries?
No, correct.
Okay, thanks.
The Councilman, also, we had talked about during the master plan process that we wanted to be the best small airport we could be, so we're going to be staying that size as
I know there's pressures on the opposite side of that to extend and to make things like other places, and very resistant to that. I think what we have is really a gem, and we need to just make it better.
And I think that was determined in the master plan that was process that we've gone through. This is really the business side of it, of where we need to go and how to make it financially work. Jeff, you and your team have done an amazing job on this, and I would strongly encourage council to take some time and schedule a meeting with Jeff and Monty to sit down, to go out to the airport, to take a look at it, and to really understand the work, the challenges, the wonderful opportunities that we have. But as we all know, it's not all about the opportunities, there's the realities of it. But they could really give you an opportunity to better understand it. So I'd encourage you to get with them and schedule a time.
Mayor, we have some expansion property out there, and there's some interest in that now as we're building. We want to build new hangars in the future, so we're seeing a lot of that growth interest.
Good. Jeff, thank you.
Okay, Mayor and Council, so we've got 2 more items on the staff report. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the wastewater report. You've got your 2-pager in there. We're under construction with a digester and our lab building, and things are progressing as they should there. And then also our progressive design build, Group F, our large project, we're starting to kick off the design right now. It's with Jacobs. So I brought Evan Jenkins with me today. There he is. And he's going to give you a short presentation on stormwater program. I don't think we've spent a lot of time talking about his program with you. We just wanted to give him about 5 minutes or so. And the reason that this is a good time is because he's got a permit, a stormwater permit, to discharge our stormwater into the drains and the creeks in Nampa. And then so he monitors the quality of water that's coming into the creeks and drains during a storm, and that's part of our permitting. And we're in an open comment period right now, and so he's looked through all these permits, and he makes comments back on and for the benefit of Nampa on what would be most efficient for our operation. So, the other thing I want to mention is Evan is one piece of the stormwater program, which is he's the compliance and monitoring for the quality. We do have a whole nother side of it, which is the construction of facilities and maintenance of the stormwater pipes. Just a reminder, we didn't fund stormwater in 21 for any maintenance work because we did a budget. We held back the 1%. We had to come up with some projects not to fund. So we'll be talking more about how to fund that in the future.
Thank you, Tom. As Evan comes forward, one thing I want to say, Evan, thank you for what you do. Stormwater is one of those areas that is not thought of, but is critically important. And I have to say, I'm even guilty of that because it just happens, right? It all happens. It rains, the water goes somewhere, and it just happens. But you're the one that is watching over that and checking the numbers. And thank you for what you do, and thank you for educating us a little bit.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. I just want to give you a brief overview of the history of our program that we've developed over since 2009, since we got issued our first MS4 permit. So the mission of the stormwater program is to provide oversight of Nampa's NPDES stormwater permits and distribute visible, recognizable, and efficient environmental compliance information to the public, and manage the processing of the city's national pollutant discharge elimination systems, NPDES permits, and regulation of stormwater. The goal is to manage stormwater within the city to improve water quality and reduce flooding. Currently, the city of Nampa has 2 stormwater permits. We have the NPDES MS4 Phase 2 permit, which MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. That's where the S and 4 comes from. That just makes it easier for them to say. And then the NPDES MSGP, which is the Multi-Sector General Permit. So that's stormwater discharges related to industrial activities. So that's what the Nampa Municipal Airport permit is that one. So here's a broad overview, quick and dirty history of issuance of our first permit in 2009. So in 2009, we were issued our first NPDES MS4 permit. In the first 2 years, of the permit, we had developed a stormwater management program, a construction site stormwater, which is erosion sediment control, permits, enforcement activities, public education outreach, reach out to the community, businesses, Napa School District, public involvement, that's where we have the INSWAG, which is the Napa Stormwater Advisory Group. We meet once or twice a year to get their input on what we're doing as a program as a whole. In 2011, City Council at that point adopted and came into effect a stormwater utility fee to help fund stormwater, and then retracted that in 2012. After that, we went into connectivity evaluation, is how stormwater integrates within the city and how we can work as a team as a city. So environmental compliance works with stormwater, ECD works to mitigate stormwater with streets, engineering, and so on and so forth, how we work as a team. Then we developed the IDDE program, which underneath there you can see stands for illicit discharge elimination. That's our illicit discharges for spills, paints, vehicle wrecks. After that, integration with other departments, that's where we started working with streets and engineering to improve stormwater infrastructure. And then that's when we really started doing the stormwater monitoring to ensure that what we're discharging out of our MS4 outfalls to the creeks aren't exceeding the Clean Water Act rules and regulations to keep Napa within regulation, EPA. So then, after, this is well before my time, so in 2013, that's when ECD was developed, which consisted of stormwater erosion sediment control, pre-treatment, and the laboratory. After that, we developed the post-construction stormwater program, then the pollution prevention good housekeeping, and then in 2014, our 2009 MS4 permit expired. They were good for 5 years, so we applied for coverage under that permit, and then permit negotiations took place. At that point in time, EPA started discussing issuing Idaho a general MS4 permit statewide. A lot of pushback from all municipalities, so they just stopped talking about permits. So we've been on administrative extension since 2014 on the same 2009 permit. So then the 2015 Lower Boise TMDL was developed, which changed the requirements for stormwater monitoring discharges. More permit negotiations in 2017. That general MS4 permit just disappeared, no more discussions. Then they came out with an approach for alternative control measures. So they issue certain requirements, but they leave it up to a municipality on how we are going to meet those requirements, which is a great way for us to meet those. And here's a screenshot of our current 2009 MS4 permit. So the main points of this permit, there's 6 minimum control measures that we must meet, which involves public education outreach, public involvement and participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site runoff control, which is erosion sediment control permits, inspections and enforcement, pollution prevention and good housekeeping. And within those 6 minimum control measures, there's 39 permit requirements that we must meet. So stormwater within the city. So this is how we integrate as a city, as a team. So for NPDES permits, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, the Environmental Compliance Division has oversight of that. So what we do is we ensure that we're meeting the minimum control measures, which is the 6 that we just seen on the previous slide. We do the stormwater monitoring, sampling, collecting, analyzing, and then administrative controls is the annual reporting. We report annually to EPA and DEQ of the successes we've done, our discharges for samples actually meeting our water quality standards, ensuring that we are within our compliance. Streets is involved with operation and maintenance. They're the ones that do the BMP, best management practice implementation, asset management and emergency response for flooding. ECD also assists with flooding response points. And then engineering is involved with capital improvement project development, how to improve stormwater management, the MS4 system as a whole, replacing pipes. If we're going in and replacing a whole roadway, let's dig underneath and replace MS4 pipe that could be 30, 40 years old, it's cracked, infiltrating groundwater or leaking, vice versa. then also with asset management and then prioritization of the projects. So the big portion of our program is the stormwater monitoring. So the permit states that we must conduct stormwater monitoring 4 times a year, which is 4 quarterly samples. And the samples, the quarters are broken into March and April, May and June, July and August, September and October. And then you notice November and February has an asterisk next to it. So since we are a semi-arid climate, we only get on average 11 inches of rain during a year. It's really hard to get samples during the summer months because we don't get any rain. So November through February, if we cannot collect a stormwater sample within that quarter, we can substitute a stormwater sample if we can collect one between November and December, or November and February. And that's every year we've had to do that. We just can't get that July to August storm event to collect the samples difficult. And this is new. This is the main reason why I'm here. So September 1st, 2020, EPA published City of Napa's draft MS4 permit. It's new. There's a link to it if you all would like to go and visit and read through it. It's pretty stringent. So as of September 1st, we have 45 days to comment on this draft permit, which closes October 16th. So my division is actively reviewing this draft permit, ensuring that we're able to achieve the new requirements that are put forth. If we don't agree with it, then that's when we'll comment on it. So we'll be submitting those comments prior to the October 16th deadline. And here's just a few examples of some of the concerns that I have and my group have right off the bat. So currently, the permit years run from fiscal year. So after September 30th, we have till January 15th to report our annual progress or results from monitoring, any kind of program documents we've updated, our community outreach activities with the Napa School District or businesses or industries. We have to report on all those requirements we do. The new permit is saying that we need to bump that up a month and a half and have the annual report due December 1st. And it's already hard enough for us to achieve the January 15th due to working with streets and them generating their data from all their maintenance activities they do, like cleaning out the MS4 pipes, replacing sand and grease traps, so on and so forth. So that's something we're definitely going to put comments on, is request to have that bump back to January 15th, ensure that we're accurate. We don't want to, shoot by the hip, so to speak. We want to make sure our data is accurate and protecting the city as best as possible. The second comment is, and this is a new frequency and required number, is inspection and cleaning of catch basins and inlets. So quote unquote, all city-owned catch basins and inlets in the MS4 shall be cleaned and maintained at least one time for 5 years. And perform all appropriate maintenance and cleaning actions. That might not seem like much, but when you put the numbers of what City of Napa has, we have 6,382 catch basins, 2,363 sand and grease traps, and you can easily triple that and drop inlets that we have. The current permit, there's no frequency, there's no set number. We have our seven asset management zones that we hit every year, and we try to get to as many as we can, and it usually results in replacing a BMP or performing maintenance if there's a flooding issue at this point. So to hit these once every 5 years would be extremely expensive. You'd need a lot of staff, a lot more equipment, so that's going to be huge comments that we're going to be requesting. Since we have this 7-year asset management zone that's proven its work and it's effective, to replace that 5-year with our 7-year asset management zone, that we already have a program that's working. So we're going to put forth effort, please let us use this instead of the 5-year. Another big one is part of the monitoring assessment, so I was kind of focusing on earlier, is a current permit we have to sample 4 times a year, Indian Creek, Mason Creek, and Wilson Drain. This new permit, they have it listed as Indian Creek, Mason Creek, and the tributary conveyances of Lower Boise River, which we do not discharge in Lower Boise River. So going from monitoring 3 sites, they listed all the tributary conveyances, which are 12, plus Indian Creek and Mason, that's 14 waterways that they're proposing that we monitor. We're not sure how you do that, specifically since we do not discharge to Lower Boise River. What it seems like to me is City of Caldwell, their draft permit, I think, is going to be finalized within a week or so. Middleton got finalized a couple weeks ago. So we're all getting our draft permits at the same time. They all have this identified, so we're not sure if EPA just wanted to use this as like a bubble effect since it's Lower Boise TMDL. We're definitely commenting on this since the City of Nampa does not discharge directly to the Boise River. So here's kind of a side-by-side comparison of the changes for the stormwater monitoring on the right or left. That's our 2009 permit, and on the right, I can't talk today, sorry, is the 2020 draft MS4 permit. You can see the waters of the U.S. that we need to monitor on the left in the current permit. On the right is tributary conveyances, the Boise River's new. On the left, the sampling parameters currently is flow, TSS, total phosphorus, total nitrogen, and E. coli. Under the draft permit, they want temperature, which is new. E. coli, sedimentation, siltation, that's new, and total phosphorus. I have no idea how they want us to monitor temperature. It's not clear. It doesn't. We don't know if that means if we have to monitor every outfall. Does that mean we have to monitor the 14 water conveyances? Is it during grab sampling? Do we have to buy new equipment? We don't know yet. So that's going to be more comments, but it's picking stuff up like that. So we're actively reviewing this draft permit, ensuring that we're covering all our bases to make sure that we're able to meet this new permit requirement and not have something that's so financially burdensome that's really going to be painful for the city. So final comments, once we get those finalized, work with Brown and Caldwell. As soon as we get those finalized and ready to submit, we'll send it to the mayor and council for you guys to review. And that's what I have at this point in time.
So just a quick question, somewhat comment. ACH stormwater in Ada County is managed underneath ACHD, is that correct?
Okay.
Correct. So as we discuss and consider transportation and streets and the cost of streets and transportation costs, stormwater comes underneath that. So here in our community, if you were in Ada County, the city would not be paying for this. So when we look at costs, right, to our citizens, this is an additional cost that we have, that we're having to fund out of general fund when we're adding the taxes or funding it out of streets department, or right now it's streets, right? Yeah. Okay. I just thought this is a good time to remind council of that.
Mayor Kling, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
didn't mean to interrupt you. but,
No.
I'm confused on this. When we're talking about wastewater versus stormwater, we're talking two distinctly different things. In designing new projects, wastewater, or stormwater is to be retained on site. So what you're talking about is strictly surface streets and where it's channeled, where that water is channeled to. And when you talk about having four different tests per year out of those 3 locations, are we actually channeling stormwater to those locations, or is this just natural gravity flow that's collecting, like in Mason Creek or Indian Creek drainage system, and then being picked up there, and then we're somehow being charged with the requirement through the EPA, which, again, I have my own concerns with the EPA, but that is what it is. But it seems to be a little odd that we're going through this again so soon.
So this is actually sheet flow, snow melt that's coming off the streets, entering to the MS4 pipe, which is conveyed and traveled to outfalls that discharge into.
I know it's got to go
Since we own
someplace,
and
yeah.
maintain the MS4, we're responsible for monitoring
Yeah.
those discharges.
So all the new systems that were being put in subdivisions are self-contained on-site.
Right.
We're talking about 2,000 sites that were in the old style, the existing, come right off the street and go into the grid. So those are the ones that we're monitoring. Everything new is completely separate.
Correct. Yeah, and that's where my confusion was coming from. I know from a design standpoint, we're responsible for our stormwater on site.
So back when all this started is stormwater out of sight, out of mind. Pipe it, get it under the road, discharge it so we don't have to drive through it, is what it was. So now the requirements is retain everything on site, but outfall still exists, so we still need to monitor and ensure that we're not exceeding the set requirements for clean water act.
Any further questions?
No.
It's a little concerning, needless to say. Thank you for the due diligence to, one, to review, to compare, to present to us so we know. We will look forward to seeing the letter and the comments that you provide back, and I would anticipate we will see that at the October 5th council meeting. Is that correct?
I'd like to have a little bit more time just to ensure accuracy.
Okay. It's due what date?
The due date's the 16th of October.
So I think if I
Just to submit.
think about my calendar, let's look at October. We have council meetings on the 5th and the 19th. So if it doesn't require council approval, it does not. Okay. So you know what? Thank you. If it doesn't require our approval, feel free to send it to us so that the council is aware and has opportunity to see it. But thank you for the due diligence. This is very important to us.
Mayor, I do have one question, and just clarification. Did you say Middleton and Caldwell has already submitted or are about to submit?
So City of Middleton's new permit is in effect. City of Caldwell will be finalized and in effect within the next week or so.
And
October 1st.
I would have thought they would have had some similar concerns. So I would think if the three bodies came together and lobbied together, that would be beneficial.
We'll be reaching out to
Okay,
Caldwell very
thanks.
soon.
Mayor, one more question if I could.
Yes.
Evan, when you said temperature, is the EPA saying that the temperature is for fish? And I didn't know there was fish in stormwater. I guess there is.
Well, they don't want the temperature of the discharge into, say, Indian Creek, Mason Creek to exceed the natural background of the temperature of Indian Creek, Mason Creek. They don't want to warm the temperature up of the stream for someone that's spawning aquatic life.
Yeah, that's,
I don't know how.
that's just
I don't know
crazy.
how you can do that.
The sun does that.
So I don't know how that's going to be.
Okay, yeah.
The ocean and there have a drought. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same boat here. Okay, thank
So
you.
it's a concern.
Yes, it is.
I'm worried about that, so definitely be commenting on that.
Well, that's going to cost the city more money to concentrate on that and get something done, right?
If it's approved.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Evan, thank you very much. Appreciate the update. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. So so typically we begin public hearings at 7. At this time, our public hearing is our budget amendment, and we don't have anyone signed up to testify. And we didn't have anyone ahead of time, correct? And no one has signed up tonight. So what I'd like to do before we move into public hearing, I would like to go to action item 5.2, which, with Kirk Carpenter, this is authorize the mayor to sign the resolution and intergovernmental agreement with the Joint Powers Agreement for collection and expenditure of development impact fees for the fire district services. I think we have Bill Gilgray here, probably for this particular item, and I thought we're going to let you go home and not sit through our further discussions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're
Mayor and
welcome.
Council. Appreciate your time tonight. This is an important step for future growth. So this effort's been in works for a very long time, even prior to my appointment to the fire chief. So rather than answer your questions, I figured I'd bring the person that was the spearhead for all of the 7 departments that were needing help into this establishment of impact fees. So what you had in your packet and what you'll be asking questions about or having Mr. Gilgray explain its function is an intergovernmental agreement as well as a joint power agreement with Canyon County, the City of Nampa, and Nampa Fire Protection District, allowing the use of impact fees for future growth for our fire department. So we were one of 7 that was assisted in establishing these with the county, and so I just figured I'd bring Bill here tonight to answer any questions of its function or use that you might have. So,
Great. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Bill Gilgray. I'm appearing here as the attorney for the Nampa Fire Protection District. My address is 5700 East Franklin Road, Suite 200, Nampa, Idaho. I understand from the chief letting me know what I'm supposed to be here for this evening, as I'm to answer questions, not make a big, long presentation, so I'll defer to you as to what information the council requests on this matter.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
I do, Mayor, if I
Thank
if I
you.
could. Mr. Gigray, thank you for showing up. I like listening to when you speak about the Nampa Fire District. When you talk about impact fees or use of the impact fees, Canyon County doesn't have impact fees. So it would give you the impression that since Nampa does for growth, that we would be funding 99% of any projects for new development, new buildings or expanding the fire. Am I right, or?
Mayor Kling, with your permission, and Councilman Rodriguez, the county does in fact have impact fees.
Oh,
And so the reason for this intergovernmental agreement is for that very purpose. The Idaho Development Impact Fee Law was amended in 2007, actually 2005 or 6, and then again in 2007. And it expanded the ability to do impact fees beyond counties, countywide highway districts, and cities through an intergovernmental agreement so that impact fees could be imposed for fire districts, for highway districts, for water and sewer districts, and irrigation districts. So in this regard, the purpose of this intergovernmental agreement, which is before you, is for the part of facilitating the county's ordinance, which has been approved and in place and is in fact already in 30 days after June 22nd in place, their imposition of impact fees in the unincorporated areas of the county that are within the bounds of the fire district. And the fire district's boundaries only include, as you know, areas in the county. The reason for the inclusion of the city in this intergovernmental agreement is that because of the service agreement that the city has with the fire district, all of the facilities for which are the subject of the capital improvement plan, and the capital improvement plan really is the same as the capital improvement plan for your own fire impact fees. That is because the service area for the impact fee includes the area of the city as well as the unincorporated areas of the county that are within the bounds of the district. This is allowable. It's also the statute that was amended that allows intergovernmental agreements, allows for government entities that can impose impact fees are able to enter into an intergovernmental agreement to define the service area as well as to raise cooperatively impact fees. This proposal, as you can see by looking at the intergovernmental agreement, follows a model that we've done with 4 fire districts with Ada County, with the 7 fire districts in Canyon County, as well as with the city of Star and the city of Cuna and the city of Middleton. What it provides basically is that the administration of the county's impact fees, that is dealing with the issue of anybody claiming exemptions or credits or special assessments or so on, the setting up of the trust fund, the accounting for the trust fund, the accounting for the money, all of that would be at the expense and under the obligation of the fire district. And the intergovernmental agreement affirms that, of which, of course, the fire district is a party. So that was probably a long-winded
no,
answer.
but, well, thank you.
Apologize. I see some laughter. It must have been.
I stand to be corrected. Yes, thank you for that. Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Thank you for coming this evening. Just so I've asked and had this answered once before, I'll ask you, since you're legal representation for the fire district, this is not an effort to consolidate the Nampa Fire Department and the Nampa or the rural district. That is not what this is all about, correct?
Mayor Kling and Councilman Haverfield, you are absolutely correct. This has nothing to do with consolidation.
Right. That's a
This has-
separate discussion where we had the other night.
Right.
So the joint powers agreement for the collection of this money does it go through the county and then back to us? How is it collected, and who is responsible for the dispersion of the dollars available?
Mayor Kling, Councilman Haverfield, very good question. The expenditure of the impact fees that are imposed by the county for the fire district have to be in accordance with a capital improvement plan, which you as a city have approved as well. And the process is going to be directed on what facility is going to be the subject of the expenditure. Under the development impact fee law and the way the agreement reads, as well as the ordinance, is that the expenditure of those impact fees has to be in accordance with the provisions of the capital improvement plan.
Is that the City of Nampa's capital improvement plan?
It's the same one.
Okay, so I mean, the rural district wouldn't have oversight over a different type of a capital improvement need per their perception. It would fall back on the City of Nampa's capital improvement plan.
It's the same one.
Okay, so they're combined.
It's the same exact capital improvement plan. There are not two of them, there's one.
Correct. So our focus would be to look at the city limits of Nampa and where the impact highest and best need is, and the benefit would be into the county at that location, being able to further reach and to be able to get service to them quicker. How does that affect the Canyon County commissioners and their involvement then?
Once there is a plan, the way I see the way this would work is we have to wait till we've gathered enough funds in order to fund some kind of acquisition, and that's going to be a while. Then the fire district, and that'll be administered through the chief, is going to identify at some point in time that they would use these impact fees for some facility under the capital improvement plan. That would have to be coordinated with the city, because the facilities are going to be the cities. And so there will have to be an agreement reached at a point in time for those expenditures, and that would be done during the budget process, because you have to, as you know, budget the expenditure of impact fees for the following fiscal year for whatever the identified project is, and the county will be going through that very same process.
Okay.
So they would, excuse me.
And just to cut you, I think you've answered my question, but the Impact Fee Advisory Committee would be the one responsible for the direction as a part of that that effort on both parts then. Is that correct?
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry.
Mayor Kling and Councilman Haverfield. The advisory committee's role is simply to review and update the capital improvement plan. They're supposed to meet at least once a year, and then that has to be updated every 5 years by statute, and that's their role. The administration of the impact fees and the potential use of those, and you'll see that the way that our policy reads, the accounting of this is very specific. It has to be for every single fee that's collected. We have to identify when it was paid, who paid it, what parcel it was paid from, and that is then accounted for in the trust fund. And what I've recommended and what I have in the documents is we start with the year, and then we have the parcel and so on, so that when we're administering this, we know what year's coming up, because you know you have to spend first in and first out. You've got 8 years to spend it. You can ask for an additional 3 years if there's justifiable cause as to why it couldn't be expended in the first 8, and then you have to notify the property owners. But that will be through the administration by the fire district of the impact fees, and then it'll recommend to the city and to the county how and what year those monies should be spent and what they should be spent for and what the project is. And I think that, in my mind, at that point, there will probably be some kind of MOU between the county and the city with regards to the expenditure of those fees, so that everybody's on the same page as they're going through the budget process for the use of those fees in the following fiscal year. But as you know, each facility, each thing could drive different issues. Some might be more city money than less fire district money. Some may be more fire district money, or it may be equal, just depending on the service of the facility.
Mayor, if I can just to follow up then, back to the administration of the dollars that are brought in, who's responsible for that?
Fire district.
The fire district, not the Napa Fire Department.
Nope.
Okay, so the fire district would be making those decisions as far as on the allocation of the funds, or would still go back to the capital improvement plan that the city of Napa created? That they jointly work on?
Excuse me.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. It has to, any expenditure of those funds has to be in accordance with the capital improvement plan as it existed at the time they were collected. And so that has to be monitored closely. And the city and the county's governing boards, since you are the ones that approve the budget, and the county approves their budget, and the expenditure of those funds has to be in the budget for the following fiscal year, you would be approving that at that time. And so, in my mind, the administration by the fire district of this, when it proposes to spend county impact fees, or if the city proposes to spend city impact fees, but also wants the fire district to expend the county impact fees, that the two will work together as to how that will work out, what the plan is, and then that would be submitted and vetted by the county commissioners as well as the city council when they were going through the budget process to know whether they would approve those expenditures at that time.
I have more questions than I have answers for. I'm sorry. It just is a big thing, and it's, I want to wrap my mind around it all, and I don't want to take everybody else's time in doing that, but it's a big decision.
Yeah.
It's not a simple decision.
Actually, I would like to comment and say, though, that there are appropriate measures in place to allow the two jurisdictions to give input. And we are already operating underneath our CIP today. We do it every year. We've gone through the budget. And that's what Ann Westcott, is it Westcott?
Yes.
Did I say that right? Guides us through. And so, well, and you said on the committee, so we're very bound by it. And what, if I understand correctly, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is it's that with where the county is collecting impact fees, which is wonderful, because now we have access to additional funds via the district. Previously, we did not have access to those funds. We were having, now the district would contribute any specific funds, but they were not collecting impact fees. Today, with this MOU, it gives the city of Nampa access to the impact fees that are being collected by the district to help enhance our impact fees to get the projects done. So it's actually a great thing, as long as the right checks and balances are in place within the document. And my understanding is that they are.
Mayor, I just see it as potentially a two-edged sword. We're encouraging growth outside of the city limits, in a sense, because that's where the impact fee dollars are going to come from, is new growth, correct?
But this has nothing to do with encouraging growth.
No.
This is capturing the funds from the growth that's happening.
I'm just saying, though, that's anyway, that's where I just need to get my mind wrapped around it. My focus obviously is on the city limits of Nampa. That's my first goal. But I see the benefit to the county as well. But if we're focused on like fire station number 6 and the rural districts looking at fire station number 10 as a better fit because of some growth that's happening outside of our city limits, therein lies the potential of a challenge of meeting of the minds. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about.
However, that said, in our current CIP, we've identified Fire Station 6, which we're like 10 or 12 years behind on, Fire Station 7 and Fire Station 8. We can't go outside of our current CIP, and all those fire stations are in city limits. We're that far behind. I don't think we're going to have to worry about 10 that's outside, because we're years off on getting.
Again, if that's our goal, is to be able to fund those, great,
May
if
I
this is the
address
vehicle.
Yes, please.
With your permission, Mayor Kling and Councilman Haverfield, remember that under the services agreement that you have with the fire district, the administrator of those services is your fire chief. The fire chief is the one, and Chief Davies, that meets with that fire board every meeting, regular meeting that they have. And the direction that that commission is going to have, as long as that service agreement is in place as it is now, is going to come from your very own administration. And so in my mind, the fire chief, as I understand and worked with government for years and years, is going to listen to what you all have to say, I can imagine. And that is going to be carried to the board of the fire district. And I really don't envision this being a major concern. It does going to take some planning, and there needs to be remembered that we got to be on the same page. I agree wholeheartedly. I can also tell you that the city of Caldwell, with the Caldwell Rural Fire District, we're in the exact same situation. Same type of service agreement. The board of Caldwell Rural, we've worked with the Caldwell Fire Department for years. I don't ever remember any major fusses that we've ever had over expenditures and sharing of funds for a common goal, which is for the protection of fire and life-saving for persons lying with, residing and being found within the district.
You had me at
Thank you.
Chief or being in control. That's the answer I was looking for, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think logistically, very clear, that's the situation.
Okay, as long as that's the understanding and that's the way it's going to be directed, then we have a face that represents the city of Nampa, and that's my goal.
Great.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions from the council? So I would stand for a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution for intergovernmental aid agreement between and joint powers agreement for the collection and expenditure of development impact fees for fire district services, systems, and improvements.
So move.
I'll second that, Mayor.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Am I
being here.
dismissed, Mayor?
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
And if you want to meet and have any, the district is in contract for their fire protection with the city. And they do rely on me currently to assist them in anything that we're doing and recommendations towards them funding our projects. So.
Well, that's the comforting part of this is we're carrying the bigger burden. The financial aspect of it is more heavy on our side. We just want to make sure that we're getting the representation that weight carries.
Yeah. It is exciting for me because up to this point, when the district does decide to be able to support us, they're pulling it out of their general fund, where this will be the first time in their history they've had an option to not just support us with the general fund, but to have growth helping assist and pay for the growth. So I appreciate your time and acceptance. So.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to continue to rearrange our schedule, and because we have a few people online, but because there's no one testifying, we're going to go to two other items before we move to public hearing. The next one is going to be action item 5.3. This is with Brian Foster, because depending if you have to stay or not, I thought we'd get this one done. This is to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with RN Mechanical for HVAC maintenance and repair at various city buildings. This is approved in the 21 budget. It's also approved by legal, and this is an existing.
I'm going to make the motion, Mayor, to accept this, and if there's discussion after the second, we can, but motion to
Second.
accept.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there questions or is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Thank you. So you guys can go home. And we're going to move to action item 5.10 on the agenda. This is to authorize Fleet Services Division to proceed with fiscal year 2021 purchase of various vehicles and equipment for the Engineering Division, the Nampa Police Department, the Street Division, Wastewater Division, and Water Division. It will be done after October 1, 2020. This is what we approved in the FY21 budget.
Mayor, Council, let's have a couple opening remarks on this one, and then I'll have Doug come up. So all of these there's a lot of items here, about 2.2 million worth of equipment. This is all within the budget that we talked about. We won't spend any of the funds until the beginning of the fiscal year. That's right in the write-up. This is all in accordance with Doug's fleet plan. He's being fiscally responsible with the equipment. There are a couple large items on there that we don't see real often that you won't, they have pretty good life cycles on that. You won't see again, like a backhoe, for example, and a Vector truck. We got a tractor trailer for the wastewater plant to haul the biosolids. So, and with that, I'm going to have Doug come up and talk about any questions or further comments.
Tom, I'm sorry, Mayor. Tom, on the exhibits, it lists A through O, but they're not in our packet. Are they specifically to certain items? Is that what?
Oh, yeah, Mayor and Council, that A through O is probably broken out for division, probably police and.
Oh, okay, I
Just
see.
one quick note, these requests before you tonight are for police and public works only. Parks, planning and zoning, and I think building also have vehicle requests, but they'll be forthcoming at a later date.
Mayor, if I may, before I forget, one thing, and we approved this in the budget, so I think this is a done deal, but I'm just curious, like on street sweeper, et cetera, I know I've asked this question, I know prior to on other items. What happens to the ones that we're replacing then? What type of value are we getting?
Well, Mayor and Council, right now, we're getting incredible values for them because the manufacturers were all shut down via COVID. We just sold the old oil distributor, and we got $48,000 for it. That's a rarity. I don't see that happening in the future, but it wouldn't surprise me if the value stayed more than normal for the next year or so, just because of delays in manufacturing.
Okay, so there is a demand then for for what we're, and so are there any, estimated just in this area, estimated what the total dollar amount would be that we potentially will receive for the old equipment?
It's tough. I can tell you for 2020, we recovered about $280,000
Okay.
in revenues from sales. It's tough to speculate,
Sure.
future tense, but I'd say probably in that ballpark.
Okay, thanks.
And I think one of them, I can't remember which one off the top of my head, you're selling interdepartmentally.
A couple of them we are,
Yes,
yes, a couple
right.
of them we are, exactly. Dump trucks moving from streets to wastewater. We'll move one of the water vehicles over to parks, and we'll do some shuffling like that, exactly.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Doug, you had mentioned that because of the COVID, it's difficult to secure the items to replace them. So if you're selling them, are you selling them before you've secured them? So we're left hanging or what?
Mayor and Council, no. I would like to sometimes, but I wait until the new vehicle is in hand and upfit and in service before we actually sell them.
Thank you.
There will be, so that means this for 21, the actual disposals will probably be a little later in the year than we normally. So yeah, no.
Are there any other questions?
No, Mayor, I'm going to make the motion though, and if there's further discussion, that we authorize Fleet Services Division to proceed with the purchasing of the various vehicles as listed in our packet.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez? Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brower?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you so much. Now you can go home. I know you start your mornings early. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go to public hearing. We have one public hearing this evening, and it is the amendment for the FY20 budget. And the applicant and staff are one and the same. And Doug, thank you for sharing with us and walking us through it.
This is the same presentation, we just reworded some of the slides.
Thank you.
To make the flow a little better. I wanted to give everybody a copy of this.
Thank you.
Right, so now I'm far enough away I can take this off. All right, Mayor, councilors, forgive me, sometimes in the summer my voice gets a little dusty with hay fever, so No cold, this is my cyclical voice, up and down. The budget process, the budget amendment process, I want to preface this a little bit by saying that within the finance department, we want to continue to work with our departments to refine this process so that we can reduce the number of amendments going forward to the degree possible. The challenge with amendments is that when we roll funds from one year to the next, it appears as if we are increasing the budget, but we are just moving that from one bucket to the next, and we never take the old budget down for the moving them out, we just take the new budget up for moving them in. So it makes it appear that our budgets are increasing when in fact we are moving the values from one year to the next. So I outlined some changes this morning with the mayor in a meeting, and Ed is working on putting those into policy format where we can begin to be a little more predictive on the amendments and reduce the appearance of the increase. So with that being said, let's go into the first page on the amendment. I might be able to get it from here. There we go. Great, that'll work. Perfect. So I wanted to start off very quickly, just looking at the bottom number there. This was our budget for FY20, the $193.2 million. That's where we started at the beginning of the year. So let's go to the next slide. For this year, the amendment looks large, but it's deceptive. Out of this amendment, we have $9.3 million that are carry forward, primarily from Public Works, and we'll get into the detail. The total new fund from new spending was $680,000, and I will go into the detail on that, exactly what it means. And the total new with brand new funding is $4.2 million to arrive at an amendment of $14.222 million. Let's go to the next slide, please. And next. So I wanted to start off with the area that's most critical to me, and probably to you and the citizens, is how much of this amendment is brand new spending from general government or from property tax dollars. So what we have right here is a series of about 6 items that total $680,000, and I'd like to walk through them briefly. The very first item is $500,000 for the airport land purchase. That will eventually come back to us as Public Works files for the grant with the airports, the FAA. This is like a temporary shift. We advance the money so they can further their cause at the airport, but that will come back to us. But temporarily, it is a use of general government funds that probably in the next year or two we will see come back. Now, the remaining changes are for actually new spending, and it's $180,000. And I want to put that in context. Out of a $193 million budget, we only missed by $180,000 on 4 or 5 items, which is, to me, pretty significant. It's very, very good. So facilities moving costs. With the moving from planning and zoning and development services out of this building to the new building, there were costs associated with that across virtually all aspects of the city that should have been budgeted in last year. It was a missed opportunity. That was about $40,000 to move everybody. That's packing, picking people up, moving things, buying new little one-offs for the moves and so forth. Very small amount. The second one I think you're familiar with. It came before the council a while ago. This is the economic developments, 1/2 of the downtown events quarter salary. We pick up 1/2 and the NEC picks up the other half, so that was our half of that. It was approved by council. And the last 3 are police and fire. The police evidence room, as they began to finalize, this is just the addition. They had a larger expenditure for the evidence room that was in the budget, but there were some additional costs they found as they went through. It was $11,000. And then the police and the fire, well, we budgeted for the vehicles last year, but neglected to pick up some of the equipment that goes with the vehicles. And the same with the fire equipment. We had budgeted for the fire truck. There was some equipment in the Quint that did not get budgeted for that was necessary. Yes, Mayor.
Are those last ones funded out of impact fees, or can they be reimbursed out of impact fees?
Where
The
they
new
have
equipment.
been impacted, where they can be funded out of impact fees, they are being funded.
The Quint and the equipment
Yes.
for new vehicles should both be impact fee
Yes.
expenditures.
Where
right?
they're, yes, that is correct. Where they are eligible to come from impact fees, these are coming from impact fees. But they're in general gov, and I wanted to call those out, so thank you for pointing that out, Mayor. Now, this is the other big section of funding that is new funding for existing or projects that have pulled forward. We know the CFAC and the COVID-19 grants. We have $2.1 million in our budget for FY20. There may be more coming in FY21. This is what we're putting in for FY20. This includes what Beth Einek referred to tonight as the small business grants, the 11 that have been processed for and the 22 that are still on the plate. That money is included in that accrual. The rest of them are from grants or other sources. The parks and bathrooms, that's in there as well. That's a grant. The DOJ COVID grant, that's a brand new grant that we received this year. It's a 2-year grant actually, $163,000. Development services, those are additional fees we've received as we continue the development of the Amazon building. Public Works, a $293,000 grant, and CDBG had also a $221,000 grant for $4.2 million in new funding for new expenditures. So nothing was pulled from public monies to pay for this. These are brand new sources. Next slide, please. This slide is the biggest section, and as you can see, it's primarily public works. They represent street projects and airport projects, water and wastewater, that were in last year's budget but didn't get done and they're being pulled forward. This is where we see that duplicative add-on incremental value or incremental total to our budget at total. They total $7.8 million. This is the area that I think Ed and I want to partner with Tom and his public works team to try and refine this so that we're only putting in what's going to happen. And if we have to come back at the year end and do a true-up, then we will, but we think we can get this a little more correctly tied down. The next slide, please. So the total, we can see, if we sort this by our department, we can see the $14.2 million in each of the various departments. The general and finance, 2.5, that's almost entirely the airport funding and the COVID-19. Everything else, and the development services, most of that is coming from the Amazon monies, and the fire reflects the additional equipment, and there was the fire truck we got last year. It didn't affect expenses, but we needed to reflect the lease cost on our budget, and we had to put that in the amendment, but it wasn't new monies, it was just reflecting it. So for a total of $14.2 million, adding the budget. Now we'll go on to the last slide. So let's come back to the beginning. We started with $193 million, adding the 14.2 drives it up to 207.39 in spending. But if we work this correctly, what you would see is the budget would actually have only gone up to $193.4 million for the new spending that we added in there if it was done all correctly in the year. So a very small incremental increase. But because of the accounting requirements to pull it forward from last year and put it in this year, it shows in 2 years, and that gives that duplicative event. And that is the amendment presentation for fiscal 2020.
Mayor, if I have
Questions?
a quick question. So on the Public Works Amendment, 7.8, so all these dollars that we're carrying forward, these were designated for certain
Yes.
projects.
Exactly.
And so they're still designated for those projects.
Same
that
projects.
They were just not accomplished.
Sometimes priorities change or the capacity to do the projects is what slows them up, or weather conditions, but they are the same projects for the same money. And as the Public Works brings them forward, they will bring them forward to you individually because they'll exceed that 50,000 threshold,
So
but
we'll
this is
see
the
what
budget.
what these,
Yes.
the wastewater, what
Yep.
exactly that's going to be utilized for.
Each of those will come before you individually for formal approval. This just puts it in the budget, and the same as we've approved the police vehicles tonight and the other things, the same process will apply.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Doug, it's a small amount, but I just wanted to get clarity on page 5, you had economic development, half of downtown event coordinators. I assume that's the Main Street position?
That's the Main Street position, that is correct.
The amount of 36,375, I thought it was 35,000 each. So is his salary gone up, or what's going on
I
there?
don't know the salary. It may have been a benefits add-on, or, because I can find out what the $1,300 differential is for you, if that's the question.
Yeah.
This is what we put into the budget, and it may have been just a budgetary constraint. Maybe there is a timing of a month plus or minus. I don't know. I'll have to look and see what.
Okay.
What is it gonna be.
I'm just looking at the NDC schedule of values, and it's 35 there, so,
I can find out if there's a differential in there for something
Okay.
else.
all right, thanks.
Mayor and Councilman, that includes benefits also.
It does.
correct?
Yeah, 35
It's the
does.
total.
When we say events coordinator salary, that's
Salary and benefits. It's the total.
Okay.
So it's 35 from NDC, 35 from the city, totaling 70 total.
Right.
I'm not sure what happened, because we actually did budget it. I'm not sure what happened that it didn't get in there, but Beth, thank you. Here she comes from behind.
When we budgeted for FY '20, we had the city's half in there, but we didn't have the NDC half because they approved their budget after the city approved the city's budget. So this is supposed to be NDC. It should be $35.
Okay.
We can find out that, and it's not a problem going down if we actually charge it less. It would be a problem if it was going up, but going down isn't a problem.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Doug. I just want to tell you thank you again. Your presentations are always so clear, easy to follow, and they touch all learning styles. I really appreciate it.
There's a reason I don't use the form we submit to the paper, because it's legally required, but going through it is nightmarish in this type of a setting, so thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Are there any further questions? Okay. So this is a public hearing, and as we move into the public hearing portion, I will say that there is no one signed up to testify in favor of or in opposition. Is there anyone here that would like to testify this evening? I think we only have 2 citizens here. Thank you for being here. Nothing like being put on the
Well,
spot.
we got the thumbs up from Dave, so we're good. And Sharon.
Okay, so with that, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the will of the council?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amendment for the FY '20 budget.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
I assume so. I know there was the discrepancy, but it's minor, so I'll say yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Okay, and then action item 511. And as long as we're here, let's go ahead and just move to action item 511, which is the first reading of ordinance for the amended budget. And this, we would request that it's passed under suspension of rules. Sorry, I've got you out of order, Debbie.
I know, just a sec here. Okay. An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending ordinance number 4459, the appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2019, appropriating additional monies from revenues and available fund balances that have accrued as of the close of the prior fiscal year ended September 30th, 2020, to make supplemental appropriations and allocations for the expenditures of the city government, general fund, and other funds, changing certain provisions and ordinances necessary to the proper operations, Nampa City Government for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020, and providing for repeal of conflicting provisions and providing an effective date.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
if I could, just point out that September is spelled wrong. September 30. It's September, whatever that is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is
Get
that
corrected.
an issue we need to worry about or not?
No, I think it's okay, but we are working on making sure that we get these spellings correct, so thank
Okay,
you.
I'll make a motion to approve under suspension of rules.
Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's go back to the top of the agenda, and we're going to go to 5.1 of new business. And this is a discussion of legislative priorities for the Association of Idaho Cities. And I would like to say that this is the first time we've done it this way. And, but I think it's a good practice to begin. And so what I did was I asked the various departments within the city to submit to us the legislative items that they believe would be coming before the legislature or that they would like us to consider advocating for during this upcoming legislative session. So I'm just going to go through them very quickly. Some of them you may be familiar with, others you may not, and we'll discuss as we go through. And my thought was it would be nice to know if the council supports these. And if for some reason you do not, then I think it's important for our staff as a general to know where the council is. I also think it's important that during a legislative session, we should not be standing before, and I would say this would go for even council members, before the legislature if we're wearing our council hat, which we are perceived to always wear a council hat or mayor hat, if the council is not aware. And so this would be a courtesy to each other also to understand what we would be advocating for as council members. So the first item, well, very first on this, which is not bulleted, is that the City of Nampa does request that AIC continue to advocate on behalf of cities to ensure that we don't lose the ability to provide adequate services to our local communities due to an unforeseeable change in the state statute related to local taxes. I know even coming from, I want to say our concerned citizens of Canyon County, right? We weren't all on the same page this last year when the city, the House Bill 409 came before the legislature regarding the tax freeze. So that's a little bit of a tough one. I will say that the cities and counties in the Treasure Valley, actually in AIC, we've got small groups that are formed that are meeting with legislators right now and listening to better understand what our legislators are looking for and the cities. Needless to say, if they had implemented what they had intended last fall, cities across the state of Idaho would have been in a very, very bad place. So I think we're going to continue to work with AIC and see where we go. We do want to be collaborative with the school districts, with the mosquito abatement, with the county, with the cities, because there's a large group of us, and so everybody's represented in the think tanks as we're discussing how do we move forward. And I will say that Jason Monk actually was the one that was involved in writing House Bill 408, which was the reallocation of state shared revenues. He said it took him 5 years to get that done. I told him I was impressed with the work he did, and he's actually working on this because he gave it time. And that's the one thing I've asked, is that we work and we don't rush, because the key is do no harm. I think we all want to get our taxes down. But how we do that, actually, for our community, has to do with some of the taxing districts, the other things that are not just here, where the city is having to pay double for highways and roads where other cities don't, right? So we have additional taxes. And then ensuring that we don't lose the funding from growth, because our citizens have said, let growth fund growth. So we need to be wise in how we approach it and collaborative on it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. The next issue that Mark Hilty actually was working with some other attorneys on, and that was to get some clarifying language to House Bill 413. This was regarding the election of council people by district. Last year, that bill was passed, and it required cities over 100,000 to actually have elections by district, not by at-large. So they've asked, he's been working with Boise and Meridian Legal to identify, possibly to request some clarifying language on that bill. So then we move to transportation. So we've talked about some code changes for special levy for highway districts, which I think you're aware of. I don't want to go too fast or too slow. So somebody raise their hand and stop me if you want me to as we go through here. We've also talked, and you're aware of the potential for registration fees for counties to help support transportation, the registration fees. And that is changing the ballot
Right, Mayor, and
requirement.
that's not, we're not eligible again until 2022. Is that my
I
understanding
think
from
that would
previous
be
conversations?
correct
Okay.
because, is that correct? Okay, good. And then planning and zoning, an amendment needed to prevent annexation into another city's impact area. I don't know exactly what this would look like, but Rodney does have it here, and that's something else that would be a position, asking AIC if they'd like to take a position on that. The other one is school impact fees. There's been a lot of discussion about impact fees for schools. I don't know if that's something that we as a city want to support, but I'm open to it. And the schools have been talking about, because they have funding restrictions and the challenge they have with levies and not passing, how do they fund future schools? So that's another item, and then I'm going to go to the next page. And then with Kirk Carpenter, on the fire side, this is something that we have worked on previously, and it hasn't gone anywhere. And I appreciate the leadership of our Fire Chief Kirk Carpenter. And it's asking the state to define illegal fireworks, because it's something that we deal with every year, that they are sold right outside the city limits and they're shot within our city. And for some reason, we haven't been able to get any language changes. And so to stand behind fire and encouraging us to advocate on behalf of that. So, and then building codes. This last year in the building department, Patrick's here if you have any questions, and I think that information was in here. They did pause on the energy code. And so I'm not sure where we want to go with this one. But there is, Patrick would like to see the energy code put back in, and I totally understand why you want it back in. I don't understand why it was taken out. Would you like to answer that? Yes. I think there's a reason, I just don't know what it is.
Mayor and council, it was taken out by one of I believe the House committee. However, since the House did not approve the rules, and you can have and the Senate approved the energy code, it actually went into the rules, and the mayor signed them, since the House stonewalled and didn't sign the rules at the end of the session. So by default, we got it this year. The thing is every year there's somebody that comes in and says, hey, we don't need energy code, because they're equating it with tree huggers or whatever they're equating it to, or something other than what it is. And what the energy code is about 20 years ago, the International Building Code took all of the items that comprise the envelope of the building, or like the U value of the windows, the R value in the walls, the R value in the attic, the vapor barrier underneath your siding on your house, and this is also for commercial buildings. And what happens is people think that we're trying to mandate that they be energy efficient, and that's a great result of insulating your house well. However, if you pull out the energy code, then we would hand somebody a certificate of occupancy for the house saying, you have a great house, but we did not do any plan review or inspections of any of your insulation, your house wrap. We didn't see if your windows were decent. We didn't make sure they sized the mechanical equipment correctly, and we didn't even look at it, because if you pulled all those items that are in the energy code out, then our departments or building departments can't then regulate it. And that's why we don't want people that don't really understand what the energy code is just to take it out because it's a feel-good thing, and they're trying to, they don't trust government. So that's what it is.
Thank you.
Why should they? Mayor, I just, Patrick, so I'm looking at this, it appears that maybe part of the pushback was the residential side, because a lot of the amendments were looking more, it seemed like some of the residential characteristics and the concern of air exchange. Obviously, when you're looking at too tight of a home, and then the potential for carbon monoxide or other buildup, that's the concern. So I didn't see anything in here other than the 5 air changes per hour. I assume that you're going to be making sure that they've got that capability within the home before you sign off on it.
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, the way, I don't want to get too long on this, but yes, we will be able to do that. We negotiated in the past 2 years with the Home Builders Association on the Energy Code amendments, which basically ratcheted back. We adopted 2018, but we basically approved things were in the 2012 and the 2015 code so that we wouldn't have to go overboard, because there's a law of diminishing returns when you start putting too much insulation around the house too tight.
Right.
And so we reached a great compromise. Everybody was fine. It's just we had rogue senators and House members taking it upon themselves to be champions against the Energy Code. And that, whereas we had full buy-in, in fact, at these hearings where where it was presented, these proposals to take the Energy Code out, we actually had the attorneys and lobbyists for the Idaho State Home Builders Association up there advocating for, yes, we need this, because if we don't have it, we don't have complete building codes.
Yeah.
So that's what it was.
Okay.
Okay, Patrick, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So with that is the extent, and I'd like to stand for any questions from council or concerns, or just a motion to go ahead and authorize us to go ahead and send this over to Idaho Association of Idaho Cities.
Mayor Kling, these are issues that we have been discussing. These are issues that are important to us. So now I'll make a motion to go ahead and have you send a letter off on behalf of the council if the council members will approve.
I'll second that, Mayor. Is there any reason why this letter would not go further to legislators and so on, as far as in our area?
The nice thing about approving this as it is that we can go ahead and do that and advocate as we move forward. So, yes, we can CC all of our legislators on this so that they know where we are on that.
Good idea.
Thank you. I think that's a great
I'll make
suggestion.
that amended motion for that.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Achi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And under the mayor and council comments, as we get into the legislative session, we'll keep you apprised, and even before then, but we'll keep you apprised of this process as we look to the future. So now we are on to item number 5.4 on the agenda. This is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the 2020 CLG agreement. This is the nomination of Hasbrook House to the National Register of Historic Places.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion other than it's awesome?
Very awesome. And I didn't know it. I've been misspelling Hasbrook House, so this is good.
Building on the corner of 16th and 3rd, you could consider, no.
Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Item 5.5 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign an easement encroachment for Ms. Barbara Butler for her property located at 3340 South Malad Drive.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Item 5.6 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance authorizing the street naming ordinance for East Cushing Lane and South Nathan Lane.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, County, Idaho, naming private lanes East Cushing Lane and South Nathan Lane.
So moved.
Does that need to be under suspension of rules
Yes,
since it's a first reading? Okay,
Under suspension of rules.
thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 5.7 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance annexing certain portions of underlying irrigation districts into the municipal irrigation district of the City of Nampa. It is requested to pass under suspension of rules and with the summary publication for the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, annexing a portion of the underlying irrigation district into the municipal irrigation district of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly.
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules and to also authorize a summary of publication.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mayor,
Yes,
I'll second the motion.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 5.9 is an action item to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract for Grimes City Pathway Phase 1 project with CNS Excavation. This was approved in the FY20 budget and funded by the TAP federal grant for streets and parks.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
So we've already done 5.10 and 5.11. Number 6 was the public hearing, and we'll move to 7, unfinished business. And this is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RD for fourplex multifamily development at 2000 South Midland Boulevard. It's located on the southeast corner of South Midland Boulevard and West Maryland Avenue. This is for Kurt Smith, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 2000 South Midland Boulevard, comprising approximately 11.5 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the City of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa as part of the RD zone, declaring that said lands by proper legal description as described below be part of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict therewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the City of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code, Section 63215.
Thank you. I'd stand for a motion under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
So Section 8 are pending ordinances that are postponed due to lack of supporting documents. And then we move to action item 9, which is adjourn into executive session. I would stand for a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061D to consider records that are exempt from disclosure as provided in Chapter 1, Title 74, and then motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A, which is to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask that we take a break as we get ready for executive session. Thank you to staff for staying so long. So we'll take like a 5-minute break and then come back. So.